Hi and welcome to one of my vintage HiFi videos. Just going to talk about an item now that's kind of like bugging me a little bit, but before I do so I just want to mention I thank you all for tuning in and watching me and putting up with me, my yabbering on about, and hopefully you're still picking up a few maybe tips or ideas here and there, or maybe a bit of help. But first of all, you may notice that I've got 6,900 or thereabouts subscribers and only getting 40 or 50 hits on some of my videos, and maybe less and maybe a few more. That's mainly because this channel a while ago was I managed to upload a load of films that was passed on to me, and I did them for a while and built up subscribers, but unfortunately YouTube said there's too many people doing that. They were public domain films, so they've all been taken off, and while the channel was sitting there doing nothing, I thought I might as well make use of it and put up maybe something else that I'm interested in, one of my passions or hobbies, and this being one of them amongst quite a few other bits and pieces. But anyway, I've gone along with these lines as yeah, I wanted to try a few things out, listen to some music, and yeah, just have a bit of fun really. So and maybe pass on maybe a bit of information for people just getting into it. You know, people know maybe a bit less than me. This is, you know, this is not really for the expert. I'm not an expert, so any experts are probably going to get, well, I'm not, I would have thought could get zero information out of me, to be honest with you, but maybe if I can help some other people along, that'd be great for me and for them hopefully. But yeah, just wanted to clear that up. Yeah, this is like this video is really about eBay, seller refurbished and service, but more to do with the service thing. I mean, it's tons of different items that seller refurbished, like hoovers, irons, air dryers, stuff like that, radios, all different stuff, a variety of different stuff, as well as manufacturer refurbished, where the manufacturer actually refurbished it, like someone's got it and it didn't work and they've sent it back, it's got repaired and sent back out again. But that don't always mean it's going to work again. Obviously still a few slip through and they get down the oven and they don't work. Then you've got the seller refurbished, where they've done a few bits of twiddling about with it maybe to get it going, or you know, just cleaned it up or whatever. Then you've got this actual like service, that, you know, this one where you're buying an item and it's going to kind of give you that peace of mind that it's been serviced. And for anyone that don't really know what, I mean, I'm not 100% certain what a full proper service is, but I can give you quite a good opinion what I think a full service should be, and what's just a service. You know, it's a very vague, you know, thing, a service. It could mean a multitude of different things. So I'm going to go through a few things, give you a few ideas of what you're actually kind of going to get or expect to get maybe, and maybe what you shouldn't put up with. Mainly really on receivers, but I will include amps, but it's the receivers. I mean, I don't think, you know, for a full service some people really know what's involved, and maybe what to look out for on sellers on eBay. You know, these people put in like plant pots and, you know, fancy stuff, sprucing it all up so it looks all beautiful and everything, and given a great big long list of how good it is and all the specs and some links to other websites and how good it is and everything. No links to anything that tells you how bad it is or anything like that. You know, just beefing it up and, you know, trying to make you pay more for what it is. You know, just, you know, you've got to have a think about it, I think, and, you know, just be careful, don't fall into any, like, not traps, but just be careful you're not being pulled into something that, you know, you can get a bit cheaper elsewhere, because it's all about getting a bit of value for the money and enjoying it. You don't want to get something paid too much. I mean, it's going to be people maybe watching this now that's bought stuff supposed to be right good and got it, and it's absolute rubbish. I mean, I've had 2 or 3 off of eBay just in this short period of time that was supposed to be working. It didn't even work, or turned on for a couple of minutes and kind of fizzled out, and that was the end of that. So of course I could have a look at it myself, but you know, why should I? I bought it as a working item, so that went straight back. So it's no good for you buying it, and it's no good for the seller really, because it's only going to go straight back to them. So it's a, you know, a bit of a waste opportunity for both people really. But yeah, I'm just going to give you an idea of what to expect for the bare minimum. So yeah, it's just make sure I haven't missed anything off first. Just want to make sure I've cleared a few things up. So it's just yeah, I think we're where I want to be now. So yeah, I'm going to talk about amplifiers first of all, if I may. This is going to be probably the easiest one to look at for service, and the basic service for, you know, for people selling them is they're not have to really do a great deal, to be honest with you. There's kind of service, and there's people that do the recaps and maybe change a few transistors and other little bits of, you know, troublesome parts in there. So, and usually if they've done that job, to look out for, they're going to have a picture of what they've done. They're going to take the lid off, and they've usually got a sprawl of parts down the front, and they show you on the board, and you can see where the parts have come from, where they've been replaced on the board. So that's something to look out for. And it's not to mean that it still won't go wrong, you know, there's no guarantee. A lot of these sellers say you're going to get another 40 years out of it. Well, but very debatable, you may only get another 4 days out of it. There's no way of knowing, because there's other parts in there that's still brittle. I mean, like the electric wiring in your house over the years, if you've got 60-year-old wiring, it's a thick wire, 13 amp wire, it still feels brittle, it doesn't bend as it used to, like, you with me? So things change over the years. Yeah, so, you know, they replaced a lot of the troublesome parts, and the capacitors obviously being one of them. So yeah, and they're going to give you a good look inside, you know, so you should get a good idea. You're going to get something pretty good there. But it's, like I say, it's been not serviced, but it's been recapped. It's like it's been a seller refurbished more. That would be, I would have said. And you're going to pay £100–150 probably on top of what the actual amplifier's worth. So I think I did talk about that before. Debatable whether you should go ahead with that, or maybe just if that conks out, go and get another one. It's really up to you that. But yeah, so that's that one. And the other one is, you know, just a bare service where someone said they've serviced it. I mean, you don't want to buy something, you know, where the bloke's got it and he's literally took the lid off, blown inside, and that's the end of that. So, you know, nothing's really happened. You know, for the bare minimum service, you want all the pots cleaned, you know what I mean? You want all the controls cleaned, so you've got no crackle. All the pots have been cleaned and everything inside. You know, quite an important little job that, to be honest with you. I will do another video. I've got another video that I've thought of about a few, you know, about the pots and a few different things there. I want to, you know, just make another video, just rather than put it in this one, just to make another, so they're not too long. But yeah, so minimum the pot's cleaned. You want all the meters working. I mean, this meter does work, you know, the actual needle to move. It's just I've not got a proper aerial in it, so that moves. You know, your stereo light comes on, that light comes on, your background light comes on, the pointer light comes on. This is like a bare minimum service here. Not unless he couldn't get a part, and that should be listed in the advert that this hasn't been replaced. You know, he couldn't get the part or whatever. But for minimum service, that should be. But really, so I'm going to go on to amplifiers first. I'm talking about tuners. You know, if you've got a meter on an amplifier, that should be lighting up and it should be moving with the watts or whatever. But yeah, also your open, he's took it apart. He's cleaned inside for you, like so. The pots, the board's been cleaned up a bit. It may not be spotless, but it'd be clean. And he may have checked the power supply capacitors and that, just to make sure they're within the same spec, like, I don't know, 12,000 microfarad or 4,700 microfarads, within the range, within 10 or 20%, going by spec of the capacitor. That's still within the range. It's not bubbled up. It still looks good. So he knows, you know, on 9 out of 10 occasions, I would have said, or maybe more, that'd be still in there. The original one would be in there. He wouldn't have changed it, but maybe he may mention that he has changed it, etc. He's also checked the DC offset of the amp. He may mention that, saying it's up to, you know, spec or something like that. I mean, not so much the DC, you know, the DC offset should be like really between 0 and, you know, depending, but it's usually between 0 and 20 millivolts. That you can check that yourself. I mean, to do an amplifier, it's very, very basic. Like I say, you're going to check the capacitors, maybe, you may check them, but other than that, it's just going to use one of these meters. This is just, they used to call them an AVO meter years ago, but it's just a voltage, ohms, resistance, that kind of meter, current. And that's an analog one where the needle moves backwards and forwards, and this one here, if I can get it to work, is a digital one. So, and these you can buy yourself. If you wanted to check something yourself, you can get these for about £8 or £10. They're not expensive, and you can do a very basic check without undoing anything, just by, and be careful. I mean, I'm not saying do this, but if you wanted to check up, just by plugging this in the speaker terminals, obviously the positive in the positive one, the negative in the negative speaker terminal. You can plug these in the back, have your amp turned on for about 5–10 minutes, make sure the volume's on 0. You've not actually selected anything playing, you haven't got a CD playing, and, you know, it's selected to say it's not playing. Your tone controls in the middle, volume down, just your speakers on, and you can just check that, and actually that should read, you know, turn it to the usually about 200 millivolt kind of range on your meter. You can, you know, I won't go into it too much, but you can check that out yourself, and 0 to 20 millivolts is fine. It's kind of that 0 being the best really, but if it's up to 20, you're still okay. You're borderline. 20 to 50, it's slightly high. It's getting slightly high. 50 to 100, you're going to probably start hearing some distortion. You know what I mean? And anything over 100 would actually probably, you know, could damage your speakers there. Like so, yeah, it's a possibility. So just be a bit careful. But that's the kind of thing he should have checked. That should all be checked as part of the service, really. Then on some amps, you've got a thing called a DC BIOS. What I'll do is I'll stick a little picture up here now. That's of the manual of the DC BIOS there. Let's just get the things myself in front of me. I haven't quite got these in order, but yeah, That's the DC bias, and to actually check that, you're going to look down the bottom of it, number 7 it starts off at. Yeah, it tells you there, if you just read through there, and all you need is just a meter, and it gives you the points inside the amplifier. This is from the JVC, is it the SR, was it the JRS 100? I actually sold this recently on eBay, and this is up to spec. I made sure, I mean, I put in the advert, I didn't say it was seller refurbished or serviced, but I just said the DC bias was up to the manual spec, bang on, and also the DC offset was fine on that as well. So, you know, I mentioned that. There was no need to really. Well, I did mention DC offset, but I didn't mean, sorry, the bias, but I didn't mention the offset. No need to. It was all bang on. I didn't, like say, put service, just normal. You know, that was fine. I didn't want to kind of up more than what it actually was. So yeah, that's a basic amplifier check, and that's what you should have done when it's left in. So you can check them yourself. I mean, if you don't fancy going inside, you could leave that bit, but you could definitely check the DC offset at the back. That's for certain. Then again, hopefully you're going to trust him. He would normally, I trust sellers, you know, look for people showing inside the amplifier. You want a picture of inside the amp. You know, if they're servicing it, they're taking the lid off. So if they're taking the lid off, they can take a picture of inside it. You know, it's very, very simple. So that's maybe something to look out for with amplifiers there. So that's a basic service. That, you know, I mean, it could be a bit more technical. You could, like, you know, check all the capacitors, like I say, around the power supply. Then you could go further on and check a few more capacitors inside. And if some of them are way out or anything like that, then replace them. But just a basic service really on an amplifier is all the switches, like volume control, etc., all cleaned. Any meters, bulbs working in the back, and the actual meter working, and you know, all the switches obviously cleaned as well. So yeah, and like I say, the DC offset and the DC bias, you know, should be checked really. Then, you know, you should be, like, you know, within reasonable ground, going to last hopefully a reasonable amount of time. But like I say, there's no guarantee with any of this stuff that these are old items. But the main thing I want to go on to now is the receivers. These are a little bit more involved, as you will see now. So, and there's a lot of receivers on eBay being serviced. I'll tell you what also I see a lot is people that say they've got one. It was serviced last week. So just put that into context. I mean, especially if it's an odd advert, maybe, you know, some people obviously do it. I'm not saying everyone don't do it. There's obviously some sellers that do this. Will say service, but if a geezer selling an odd one and it was serviced last week, but now he's selling it, just bear this in mind. The item may only be £100. He may want £90 for it, or expect to get that at an auction. Now, to go and get a receiver service, and if he's had a proper service on it, it's probably going to cost him 60 quid, 50, 60 pound. So just think that maybe he's gone down to the shop and he's paid this geezer £50 to sell something he's only going to get 100 for. So he's going to make £50. Well, he might as well just put it on there as is, and he'd probably still get 80, 90 pound as is. You know, it wouldn't be it's not going to be like a 50 or 80 pound difference for this service. It'd be a bit of a difference because he's going to pull a few more people in. But just bear that in mind. I think, oh, I'm going to sell this. What I'll do is I'll shoot down the shop and get it serviced first. And I'm saying £50. It could be more, like, you know what I mean. So just something to bear in mind maybe there. Always a bit wary of that one. Always kind of gets me, like, you know, you've got to get service just to sell it. You know, let the buyer do that, you know what I mean, not unless you're really going to get a massive amount more, which in these lower end receivers you're not, you know what I mean. These lower end receivers is not going to make a vast amount of difference, I don't think anyway. May make 30 or 40 pound maybe, so you're still out of pocket by doing the service. But yeah, just my opinion. Anyway, going on to the receiver, like I say, on the receiver you expect everything to be hopefully working, all the switches clean for this service, the amp checked inside, which I've just previously mentioned, all the bulbs to be working, the meter to be working, stereo light to be working, the dial light to be working. Otherwise you should mention that one of these ain't working and you couldn't get the bulb, etc. But anyway, to do it, you know, that's a basic service, you know, including the amp part I just mentioned. But to do a proper full service, and don't forget these are 40 years old, and things start moving about, capacitors change and bits changing it over time. So when you start putting in these, tuning these stations, things start drifting. A bit of distortion comes in, the station ain't quite right and stuff like that. I'm not saying it happens all the time, but it's going to slightly be out. And you may just turn it on and think, oh, it sounds okay, that's good. But what I'm trying to say is, if you wanted a real proper service, like your car, if you went and got a proper service, you should be retuning that in to like new enough as it left the factory. So to do that, is a bit more involved. And now I'm going to tell you, well, I'm going to show you, I'm not going to tell you, I'm going to show you what kind of instruments you need to do this. I mean, it's not just one of these meters and that does it all for you. The bloke's going to have to buy a few items here. And if I sting up this diagram here, it may look a bit complicated, so I'm not going to go through it all, but it's basically all different kind of little tests. You can read through it yourself. It's all little tests that you have to do and set meters to certain positions and put signals in and start tuning in a few different parts on the board as shown in these diagrams. I know it's a bit squashed up there. I've just done one picture for this, but yeah, it's mainly the equipment you're going to need. I mean, here's the equipment he's going to need now, and this is roughly what it costs. I mean, I know you can get it probably a slightly cheaper second hand, and some of this is second hand, but this testing equipment does hold its money. It does hold its money. So you need a frequency counter, which is about £100. You need a stereo signal generator, which is about £600–700. You need an RF generator, which is £120, £100. You need a distortion meter, about £180, somewhere around there. You need an oscilloscope, £150. So now you can see, and you also it's a picture there. Your AC, your AC VT meter, VM meter that I'm showing you there. This cheap one, £10. So you need all them kind of items. So this bloke's got to have all them around him, like you with me. He's got to have a little test. He's got to set it all up and everything. Is the bloke you buying it off of doing all this? This is the question. I mean, you can look at the feedback and hopefully you may get a clue and a bit of the feedback somewhere. But if he's going through all that, and if I was going through all that to do it all, I'd have a picture of all these meters and all these things all around your item you're buying. I have a little picture to show you that I've just tested all that and there's all the meters there. You know what I mean? That's what I'd be doing if I was selling it. So I'll just bear that in mind. I don't think you're going to get a proper full service, you know what I mean? I think you're just going to get, you'd be lucky to get the basic service. Like I say, maybe these people that takes it apart and they show you inside and they're showing you a few replacements. Ask a few questions, especially if you're paying up for it. You know, if you're not paying more than £50 or £80 for it, you're paying £200 or £300 or something for it. And you say it's got a full service or whatever. Ask a few questions, find out what's happened. It's all these checks been made, because then you're going to know that your station ain't going to sound all distorted and don't sound right. You know, you've got it full volume, not full volume, you've got it half volume or something. You listen to one of the radio stations, it sounds, oh, it sounds a bit distorted. It's a lot of hissing going, it doesn't sound right. With me, CD and everything's fine, that's pucker, like me vinyl's playing beautifully. But if you're buying a receiver, the chances are you will listen to the radio. And if you're paying up for it and you're paying for a serviced item, well, that's what you should be getting, really. Like, so, you know, look into it and find out exactly what you're getting for your money. So yeah, that's it really. That's what I really wanted to just talk about. Like I say, it was becoming a bit of a bee in me bonnet. Maybe, you know, people getting, I don't want to use the word sucked in, but people being drawn into buying something that isn't really what it is. So just keep an eye. Like I say, look at the person's feedback, because most people buy this, are not going to look inside and check anything out. They're going to just trust the bloke and they're never ever going to take the top off because they're too scared to. But just look through the feedback and you may get an odd negative there where someone has actually bothered to have a look. And then I've had seen it on eBay where a bloke's looked inside and said it was dirty as anything, full of dust. Well, that gives a clue that he hasn't done anything, because he'd be cleaning things, you know what I mean? So just look. He may have sold a thousand, but just look if he's got that odd one feedback or something. Just be wary. That'd be like, be a bit dubious about that one. Okay, that's it then. Yeah, just like I say, I don't want to go into too much, but I just want to put my finger across about, you know, buying this service, you know, so-called serviced items. Anyway, hopefully that's been some help for some people, and until next time, I'll say thank you very much.